Well, I promised we'd get started at noon, and it is noon, so we're going to go ahead and get going. Thank you for joining us again. If this is your first Smart Talks, welcome. And if it's not your first Smart Talks, welcome. We've got Halloween just a couple of weeks away. Hopefully, you guys are squared away on your costumes. Um, I have purchased a lot of candy that I do not intend to give to any children. So, I'm taken care of, but hopefully you guys are as well. Um, we're going to get going. We got a packed show for you today. A lot of good information. I've seen it already and I learned a lot, so hopefully you guys do as well. Keep in mind that these are your meetings and we want to make sure we're delivering what's important to you. A lot of these topics we pull directly from suggestions that we get from the audience. So if you have something you'd like to see our take on or need help with or whatever it is, just make sure you reach out. You can hit us on LinkedIn, YouTube comment section. You can email me directly. However you want to get that suggestion to us, we'd love to hear it. So we also, you might have noticed here on the slide, I maybe should have mentioned this first, but we've got a new cup. I sent the last Yeti out last month to Tina Savoy from M&J Valve Service. Tina, if you're here, hopefully you're loving the Yeti. But we decided to change it up a little. There were some concerns about the function of the top of the Yeti. Maybe not the best liquid delivery system there. So we went with a different cup with a different mouth. We changed the color a little bit. That is what you're seeing on the left-hand side there. So we're still going to be giving away the cup every month. You guys don't have to worry about that, but you're going to be getting a new one moving forward. So one lucky person, make sure you're watching your mail after the session and you'll get the cup. No need to fill out the survey or anything. We're just going to pick someone at random. Another reminder, I know I mentioned this already, but YouTube and LinkedIn, make sure you guys are following us there. We post content every day, tutorial tip videos for Scissortail and Acumatica. You can see where we're going to be conference-wise through LinkedIn, and all of our new content gets posted there as well. So give us a like and a follow on all the general platforms. When it comes to Q&A, we've moved to doing the webinars on Teams. In the past, we've used GoToWebinar, but if this is your first Teams webinar, which, looking at the registration before the show, it looked like it was going to be a packed house. So a lot of you might be seeing this for the first time, but the Q&A function is at the top ribbon there. Just click that Q&A button. It'll pull it up on the side. You guys can ask your questions and we'll get answers for you. Just a reminder, we do Q&A at the end of the show, so we like to hold questions and answer them all at once. If you ask something and you don't see a response in the Q&A, don't fret. We will definitely get to your question at the end of the show. The other thing a lot of people ask for is the slide deck, which not necessarily useful for today's session because a lot of it's going to be shown on screen, but we're going to get you guys the recording of the session, so you'll have that, and anytime there is a slide deck or printed material, you'll get that as well. No need to ask for it. We send it out to everybody who registers. So even if you know you're not going to be able to make it, feel free to register for Smart Talks in the future, get your name on the list, and we'll get you the recording and materials from it so you can kind of watch it on your own time. 18 Pillars. Our CEO, Gary Crouch, is the author of the 18 Service Pillars, the basis of an exceptional organization. Each month, we like to highlight a pillar, keep it top of mind, refocus on that thing for that month, just so that these are always in our mind and kind of guiding us in our interactions. This month, stay clear of politics. I think this one kind of speaks for itself. I feel like I say that about a lot of these, but nothing grounds a project to a halt like the entanglement of office politics, and that's why we try to stay out of it. So staying informed, remaining neutral, focusing on your goals, all things you can do to kind of keep yourself out of that mess and make sure that things are being accomplished regardless of any obstacles or headaches. So I think that's an important thing, regardless of who you are or where you at, is just staying focused on what's important and making sure you're meeting your goals. Um, we do have some news this month. I know I'm talking kind of fast, but like I said, we've got a lot of good info to get to today, so I want to make sure we get you guys there. Scissortail HCM year-end payroll classes are coming up. Robin's going to be running through getting everything balanced and ready for 2025 and everything you guys need to do within Scissortail to make sure you're squared away for the end of the year. So be on the lookout for more promotional material regarding the classes in the coming weeks. We do have our early bird pricing. If you register before, I want to say November 23rd, you'll get the early bird pricing. So visit our website. It's on the events page. You'll see the 2024 year in classes tile. You guys can click on that. It'll give you all the details. But like I said, newsletter is going to have some information we'll be posting on social media. So just keep an eye out and make sure you guys get registered for that so you don't have headaches next year. Switching gears just a little bit, we like to highlight features and things that we think are cool within Scissortail and Acumatica both. This month we're looking at attributes within Acumatica. So these exist at the class level, and they allow you to collect different information or different information for different classes of the same entity. I use these a lot as kind of user-defined fields. They help me separate audiences based on whatever criteria I need. They provide a powerful and highly flexible method of tailoring the system to meet your needs. So if you guys don't know about attributes or you aren't using them and you think it would be helpful, make sure you reach out to your consultant and they'll get you guys taken care of there. On the Scissortail side, the holidays are around the corner. I know that's kind of a stressful time for HR professionals. But Scissortail HCM allows you to create and manage holiday schedules for your employees pretty effortlessly. It ensures that all holiday-related data is organized and easily accessible, making it simple to apply changes across your workforce. So, if your HR professional is struggling, reach out to us. We can make sure that we get everything set up on the holiday schedule side, or help you guys get everything set up so that those headaches can end, hopefully. And the last kind of ad read we've got for the day is our technology resource center. So we put out videos that the consultants make pretty regularly about common problems we see, support issues that come in pretty frequently, or just cool things that consultants find that they want to share. So if you're a client, if you're not a client, the resources are all free. We, like I said, upload regularly, and there's a couple of different ways you can get to the resource library from our homepage, which you're seeing here. So you've got the menu button in the top right corner. We affectionately refer to it as the hamburger. So you'll click on that. That'll open your side navigation pane here. And from there, you can either click directly on the videos and articles link, which will take you to that resource center, or at the bottom right here, you've got the little magic finger. If you click that magic finger, it's going to bring you to the client service center. And from there, you're just looking for the technology tile. Clicking on that brings you here, straight to the technology resource library. You've got the search bar on the top there. We have everything tagged out so that you can kind of search by topic. All of these resources are free. We try to keep the videos pretty short and the articles as well, so it's a quick and easy read or watch for you guys. But if you have questions or need help with anything, this is a pretty good place to start. If you can't find it here, obviously you can reach out for help and we'll get you guys taken care of. All right, so now that I've talked through my part as quickly as I possibly could, I'm going to get you guys over to Christy, Troy, and Mike. They've put together an awesome presentation on a lot of really helpful things within Excel. So I'm going to hand it over to them and let them get rolling. I'll see you guys at the end of the show. Christy, I think you might be muted. Just a heads up.
Oh, thank you. I was talking to myself. I was just making sure you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. All right, perfect. Okay. I'm going to run through some tips and tricks through Excel. This whole session is Excel. I'm going to start it off, go a little bit quicker because a lot of Troy's information is very detailed. So see if I can give him some extra time. First thing I'm going to do is talk about, add this guy back up there, talk about controlling Excel. I like using my keyboard a lot instead of clicking and dragging because my hands get shaky or I just don't know how to drag on a single line. You can see it just does weird stuff. So if I am in a cell and I hit my shift button and I go down arrow, it's going to take me down however many times I hit that down arrow or over, upper right, whichever. If I do a control shift down, it's going to take me down all the way to the first empty field. So if I was on this tab or this column, it's going to take me here because that's an empty field. If I do it again, then it can go all the way down. We also have a control home, which will take me back to my A1, which here's all of your columns. Here's all of your rows. If I do a shift in, nope, shift down, it highlights all of them. Oop, control home. Let's see, what else do I have? My shift up and down. Oh, if I'm over here and I do my shift up, shift down, takes me down pages. If I am, let's do shift, that goes to the left. Then if I'm here, I say shift end. Oh, my shift end isn't working. I go this way. That's what I was trying to show you. Let's see. Let's go back up. And we're going to talk about our quick access toolbar next, which is this little guy way up here. Looking at this, I learned some new stuff. It's customizable to you, whichever keys that you use or whichever functions you use within Acumatica, not Acumatica, within Excel all the time, which I use undo a lot. So that one is definitely there. Here's a list of some of our recommended ones that seems to a lot of people use. This was something that I learned that was kind of neat. You can actually move it to below the toolbar so it shows up down here. So if you have your ribbon hidden, you still have it, but it's not up here in the dark gray area or whatever color scheme you have. So it's kind of separated a little bit so it helps you out. And then we're going to do some tricks, which is kind of what I just did there. So I hit the toolbar and the toolbar is not here anymore. If you do a single click, it kind of opens it up for you. If you double click, it actually pins it back up there for you. I'm going to move this back up here because I like him up there. This is our formula bar. So you can bring, if you have your little double arrow, you can actually make him a little bigger, which this is, say that you have words in here. So you can't really see this, but if you click in here, it'll give you all of that information. If you have a lot of text in there, expanding it might work. If you have a huge formula, that can help you also, because I always miss those commas or those extra parentheses or end parentheses. I'm always missing those. This format painter, I learned this when I was doing this, taking this or earning. Woof! I learned this little trick as I was going through the presentation, and I was super excited. is normally you format Painter and it gives you your little plus and your paint guy, and you click on him and he goes away, right? But if you double click, then you can click and click and click, and that works. And you just click him to turn him off. That was really cool. I loved that. All right, let's delete that guy. All right. Another trick that I liked with um, going through this was these subtotals. If you're ever doing subtotals, let's move him out of the way a minute. If you're in the app, not if you're doing it on the web page, but if you're in the app, if you highlight, I click and drag and highlight, then you can see some of this information down below, your average count sum, as long as it's turned on. Or over on this side, you can do an auto sum. So it's going to auto sum all of these numbers. This new functionality, or this new to me functionality, is if you come over here and you look at these functions, my function 9 is a sum. So if I'm going to subtotal these numbers, then I say number 9 is going to be a sum. It's going to give you all of those. So if I'm going to do subtotal, oops, did not mean to click out of that. This gives you this same information, but I like to have it as a little cheat sheet over here. Let's say max. We're going to say number 4. And then we're going to say we want these guys. So out of this is telling me that my max number out of these numbers is 567. Doesn't quite work very well on this screen because you can tell what that is. But if you have another screen, which kind of like that other one that I had here, if you did that on this screen, then you wouldn't be able to see that very far. But you can see it right here. That's really good. And then you also have, if you do a sum or like an auto sum of the column, it's going to sum all of this information, including your little subtotals. Or you can say this plus this plus this plus this. But you can also do subtotal. So it's only going to take your subtotal numbers to get you this subtotal. So your formula is really cool right there. We also have the fill handle. I have column A, column B, and I want to add them together. Right now I have a fat little plus sign. If I have a skinny plus sign, I can click and drag down, release, and it's subtotaling all of those. That formula goes through. Or I can double click and it does the same thing. It fills it all the way down until your next empty spot. So you do have to remember to say, oh, I had an empty one in there, but it kept the formula. So those I like using the formulas. It's really easy. There are a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts. I used some of them. That's why I had my little on screen up here so you could see when I was clicking on my shift button or my control and my shift, so you could see that. So this was telling you, here they are, here's what keys, here's what it does. And you can find this on this link right here. And like Derek said, this video will be given to you. So you can just fast forward a little bit and see it here also. And it goes down. We have lots of information. We also have reference sites that we've gone to that I like to get information on. If I'm looking up something, you can always use the little help or the question, or you can use these little reference sites here. One thing I learned, which I was really kind of excited, is these little buttons that I've been doing, you have like a click it and it takes you to whichever tab you're on. So in order to do that, you're going to say insert, and let's insert a shape. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to click link. You can go to a web page, something that's in this document, email. So I'm just going to place it in this document. So here's my button, and I want to take it back to my agenda. I say OK. So click off of it, and if I click it, it takes me back to this tab. Say that I had the wrong information. I'm like, that's not where I wanted. I did not mean to do that. I want to right click, and I'm going to edit. And I want to say, oh, wait, I didn't want that to go there. I want it to go to my opening. So you're just editing that link. You click OK, click off, and it takes me back to my opening. All right, that's it for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike.
Thanks, Christy. I'm actually going to use a few of those shortcuts. Let me just share my screen here. And I know a lot of times when you download data or import data into Excel, it's not neatly formatted. It's hard to read sometimes, as you can see here from my.
Mike, sorry to interrupt you, but your share didn't come through yet.
No, sorry.
There we go.
All right. Thanks, Troy. So as you can see, some of the data comes in. It's not very clean. You've got truncated data. You've got dates and numbers that look like hashtag symbols, which Excel does on purpose, because truncated numbers still look like numbers. Just wants to tell you that, hey, there's something here that just doesn't fit. And for those of you Sage users who export crystal reports into Excel, you'll notice you get a lot of this stuff where your rows are squished and absolutely unreadable. So a couple things I like to do when I first get data into a spreadsheet is clean it up and make it a little more readable for me. So I want to select all my data by hitting Control A here. And then to size everything up to fit better, I'll hit my Alt key, and then HOI will auto fit my column width, and HOA, Alt HOA will then resize my row height so it fits and it's much more readable. Now at this point I can see all my dates, all my numbers. None of my titles are truncated. And sticking with the Halloween theme, I downloaded a bunch of horror film data that I could use for today's presentation. So now that it's readable, as I scroll through and kind of examine my data, I don't like scrolling down and then losing my header column and then trying to remember, oh, what number does this represent here? So simple thing, I'm sure a lot of you know how to freeze the columns. On the View tab, go to Freeze Panes, and it's very simple to freeze the top row there. And if your data was filled and went off the screen here, and you had to scroll to the right, you start to lose those first columns. You can also freeze the first column if that's the important stuff for you by going through the same section. But for me, sometimes you need more than that. You want the top row, you might want the first column. In some cases, you might need more than the first column. So here, like I have three, well, a couple of Halloween titles in here anyway. Oh, yeah, there's three. But what differentiates those three is the director. So now I want to freeze those first two columns and the top row. So how do I do that? Let me unfreeze my top row here first. You pick the cell just to the right of the column you want to freeze, and just below the row you want to freeze. Come back to your freeze panes, just click the first option, and now you've got your first two columns frozen, as well as your top row as you scroll down. So you don't lose track of the data that you're actually looking at and what it represents. So, next thing I like to do is, depending on what I'm analyzing, I want to maybe add some color here to my spreadsheet and really highlight what's important to me. So, for example, if I wanted to look at films that have a budget of $1 million, how do I focus on that? And I'm going to go back to my home, and here's a conditional formatting option here. And I want to highlight cell rules. But first, let's select the budget column. And I'll use one of Christie's shortcuts here. I'm going to Control Shift down and select all my budget data. And then under conditional format, I'm going to highlight cell rules. And I want anything that's greater than $1 million. And I'm going to fill that with yellow and click OK. So here are all my films now with a budget of $1 million or more. And if I further want to focus on another category, say $10 million, I can add that just as easily and come back here, highlight cell rules greater than 10 million. And let's go with green and okay. And so now I can easily see where my $1 million budgets are, where my $10 million budgets are, and so forth. So you can also come in here. Now you've created some rules. You can manage those rules, change those rules, all from the same menu. So here I can come in and clear rules from my entire sheet or just from certain cells. I can manage my rules, which it'll show me the rules I've created. So I can pick one and edit here. Say I wanted that to actually be 5 million. Okay, so, and then I can apply it and it'll update that rule. I can delete a specific rule, apply, and now I'm back to just over $1 million, and so forth. Right, fairly easy to get. Now, let's say I wanted to highlight the entire row and not just a particular cell based on a rule. So, and we'll change it up a little bit to say I want to highlight a row where my box office did not catch up to my budget. So let's find my basically my box office flops. So I'm gonna start by selecting all my data again with Control A, and then I'm going to come back here to conditional formatting, but I'm going to create a rule here, and I can go to new rule and create it here. And I have different options, but I want to do it based on a formula. So I'll use a formula to determine which cells I want to format. And then down here, you enter your formula. So I always start with an equal sign. And I'm going to look at my budget column first. So my budget column's D. So I'm going to absolute reference the budget column because I want to stay in that column with the $D. And I'm going to reference, relatively reference the first cell because I want to change that as each row with each row as we go down. So I'm just going to go $D2. And what I want to look at now, if I want to highlight that whole row based on whether or not that budget is above or below my box office. In this case, I'm looking for where my budget was higher than my box office returns. I want to say is greater than, and now I'm going to look at my box office returns in column E in the same relative reference, that first column, first row of data. And now I'll click my format button to, I want my flops, box office flops to really stand out. So I'm going to highlight them red and click OK. And now I can see which of my films here flopped at the box office. And while I use a very static data set that I pulled from Box Office Mojo from IMDb, Troy is going to show us how we can create a data set using a dynamic connection over the web. And Troy?
And hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes,
Yep,
sir.
we can.
Awesome. So I want to cover, like Michael said, the dynamic content. One of the things that we can do to help us better analyze stuff is there's some features that are built into Excel, but most companies don't have turned on by default. And so within Excel, we can turn those things on using what's called add-ins. So if I were to click on File and then Options here, I would get this pop-up box. Down here under Add-ins, you can see which items you have activated. I have the Toolpack activated, Power Map, Power Pivot, and then there's some additional ones down here that I do not currently have active. But if I wanted to activate any of these, I need to look at the type. So you have Excel add-ins, and then you have what are called COM add-ins that are communication add-ins, basically. And so by picking whichever type and clicking on the Go button, a little pop-up box shows up that I could then check and add additional add-ins to my setup. And so that's pretty simple to add. Along those lines, if I click back home here and we were to then use Power Query, there are cases where you have data in a spreadsheet and you want to do some things with that. And to get this data into Power Query, one of the ways that we want to do that is to make this a table. And so up here on your home ribbon is the Format Table button. And I can pick any format that I want and tell it that my table has headers because I've got a header row here, and then select it. And now that's a table. From there, if I click over on table design, you can see that I can also give this range a name. So this is my Harry Potter list. And once I do that, I can use the built-in functionality that allows me to pull this into create a data connection that allows me to pull this into Power Query. So if I were to hit from table range, I get this neat little Power Query window that pops up. And so one of the things that I like to do is when I have repetitive tasks that I'm going to format something a lot, I'll use Power Query as opposed to writing equations in there. And then if I change the underlying data and hit refresh, it will just rerun all the steps that I take. So if I were to come in here, for example, and say, I want to extract and I want to pull out all the first names. So I'm going to use this text before delimiter option and tell it, give me everything before a space, right? And you'll see, wait, it just did that to my column and all my data is gone. Well, it's not really gone because back here in the source, it's still there. I just didn't tell it that I needed it to separate this into different columns. So I'm going to come back here, and before I do that, what I want to do is I want to duplicate my column. Let's actually duplicate this column 3 times. All right. And this first column, I'm going to rename to be first name. The middle column, I'm going to call middle name. And this third column, I'm going to call last name. And so now if I go back and I click my first name and we do our transform extract again, I say, give me my text before delimiter, before the space. I get my first names. And then if I jump over here to the last names and I do that same kind of process with extract text after the delimiter, and here I'm going to hit the space, but I'm going to drop down here and hit this advanced option. And I can do this from the end. So now it's going to look starting at the end and find the first space and give me anything that's after that. And so even down here, Mad Eye Moody is going to have that last name space. And so this will work. In some cases, you may have data where you want to skip an identifier. So I may want to skip the first space and then get that there, but that won't work for our particular data set. But if all I had was first and last names without any juniors or middle names in it, that would work for me. And so there's my last name list. And then in my data set, all the middle names or pseudonyms have these quote marks around them. So to easily pull out my middle name, I can go in here and do extract and do my text between delimiters. And if I say, okay, my middle name is going to be anything that's between these quotes. Now, any instance that those aren't there, I get nothing back, but all the others work. And so you can see over here, it's kept track of all these steps that we've done. And so I can go over here now back to my home button and hit close and load, and it will create me a list of that data and process all of those items. And unfortunately, it's processing the whole sheet because I didn't limit this to my data set. When I originally built my table here, you'll notice it keeps going all the way to the bottom. If my table had been only the size of the table, that transaction would have been a lot quicker. And so I could modify my range like I've done here, and my list would be a little faster because it's only processing those first 100 rows. So that's great when you've got the data already in your workbook. But there are cases where you want Excel to be a little bit smarter for you than that. And so here I've gone out and I've grabbed the cast lists from IMDb. And so if I jump back here and grab the Chamber of Secrets, so I've got the Sorcerer's Stone and I have the Prince of Azkaban, but I want to add this data set to my spreadsheet here. So I'm going to actually go out here and I'm going to use this from web option within Excel. And I'm going to put in that IMDb Chamber of Secrets web page. I'm going to say, okay. And it's going to go out on the web. And it'll take a few seconds here. Come on, you can do it. And so this was much quicker the other day. Sorry. Out here, we have our web view. This is kind of what that web page looks like when you display it. But I want to pull this data directly into my spreadsheet. So Excel's smart enough, it'll try and read that data and create different tables with it. And I could further mess with these tables, but if I like them, I can just hit load. And now what I've done is I've established a live connection. So if IMDb ever updates their list of uh, actors and characters, this information will pull these back in. And so this has got just kind of a generic name to it. So I can give it a better name, Actors for Chamber of Secrets. And then also back in here, now this is my live connection list in this workbook. I can come over here, right click on it and hit edit. And I want to name these two columns. So I know that this is the actor column and this is the character column. And so that step is now recorded. When I hit and close and load, it'll update my columns there. Now, once I've done this, I can merge all of these three sheets, my actors from Sorcerer's Stone, Prisoner of Azkaban, into one sheet, just kind of by going in here and saying, right click on this, hit merge. And now I have my tables and I can say, okay, I want to merge this list of actors and characters into one table from those different sheets. Okay. And of course, it's a live demo, so something is going to go wrong. But the end result of that is that I get a merged list that contains both lists. That Albus Dumbledore was played by Richard Harris in the first two movies, and Michael Gambon in the Prisoner of Azkaban. And so I have a merged list, which is great. But then I have another connection that I've established over here that has all of the names of all 3,000 some odd characters. I've cut it off to just 190 for the purposes of this demo, but I want to join this list with my full actors list. So if I click on full actors and I say, um, I'm sorry, I know why that didn't work the first time. I was supposed to do append. So I could append the two lists together so that I'm stacking them vertically as opposed to horizontally. If I do merge, then I'm going to merge them kind of like you would do um, a VLOOKUP or an XLOOKUP. The really nice thing about this um, um, this as opposed to a VLOOKUP is in VLOOKUP, I can only ever join one table to another table by a single lookup, or I have to write some equation that's going to combine those fields. But in this option, I can actually do a 1 and 2 and have it compare to a 1 and 2. So my actor would be checked against other names and character would be checked other names. This particular data set doesn't do that, but you may have a situation where you want to check the country first and then a state. And so then you could compare both columns to the other columns, and only when there's a match, you'll get a return. So in this case, if I unclick these, then I'm going to compare this and get the actor's name joined with my other list. And what we end up with is those two tables merged together, and I don't really care about the link column in here. I just want these other names columns. And so now I have everywhere that there's an actor, I've got a joined list with the other names that are related to it. I could further remove or add columns or do any of those other kind of things with my transform steps. And when I'm all said and done, if I hit close and load, I have that live connection. So Power Query is very useful in doing those repetitive steps and repetitive processes. For example, if I wanted to connect to some monthly financials and have Acumatica pull that information into a workbook for me, I could export that, have it run on that table, and then do a bunch of things and create a graph for me at the end. Another option that I like to use is called OData. And so in Acumatica, we have access to OData. And so the first thing you have to do is make sure that your user has access to be able to use it. The next step is to make sure that whatever your data source, in this case, I'm using sales order data, has been exposed so that it is available to be consumed from there. You can see the little check mark there. And then the third is you create a link. And so every URL, there's the base part of your Acumatica URL. We insert the word OData, and then we put in the tenant, which in my case, that's the word company. And then this GI, this generic inquiry, is called sales order invoice. So I'm going to use that to gather my data. And so very simply, I can come in and have a live connection here to the Acumatica data that if I want to hit refresh, it'll go back out and find any new invoices that were created and add those to my list. From there, I can do exciting things like creating charts from that data or do power pivots or even create a power map that shows me what state are we selling how much in. But how did I get that data into my workbook in the first place? I go up here under my data ribbon, click get data, and I go down here from other sources. And so out here we have things like the O data feed. If you're using Sage, you can do an ODBC feed. You can also do things from the web, like we've shown earlier today, but you can also do them from RSS feeds using from the web. I click on my OData and I take my, so if I copy my link, see, I spent all that time to build the link and then didn't copy it. And so going back to my OData feed, it's going to pop up here. And this is it. I hit OK. And it's going to go out and connect and pull my data. This isn't the first time that I've connected to this, but if it was the first time, it would pop up and ask me for my user credentials to log in, and I have a choice to save those or not save those in the workbook when I do that. And so just like before, we can bring this into Power Query, and maybe I've got some columns over here like this state column, and I want that moved. I can drag my state column over, way over here to the left, and it'll keep track of when I move it. And the next time that I hit refresh, it'll be right wherever I place it. Likewise, I could filter and only see open invoices, or I can come in here and tell it to, excuse me, I can come in here and tell it to sort by the newest invoice. So the newest invoices are always on the top. It's going to keep track of those steps. And when I hit close and load, it'll create a new tab for me with that data in it. And so that is my portion of the presentation. If you need any help at any time with setting up an OData connection or having any issues with any of this, please reach out to us. This stuff is super fun. We love to play with it. So don't hesitate to give us a call.
Awesome.
And
Thanks, Troy. I'm having some real bizarre technology problems on my end right now. So give me just a moment here. Apologies for that. Here we go. Wow. Well, we'll make sure to edit that part out of the video. Let's drop down to Q&A. It doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. Hopefully you guys were able to absorb all that. I know I feel very fortunate to have three Excel experts that are just, a Teams message away for myself. And don't let me forget, guys, I do actually unironically have something that I think you might be able to help me with. So I will be hitting you up once this is over. Since there is no Q&A, just a reminder that we are out and about. We have one more conference for the year. Michael's going to be in Hot Springs, Arkansas next week for Arkansas SHRM. Make sure you swing by and talk to him. He's going to be giving away free money and filling everybody in on all the advantages of Scissor Tail. So if you're there, give him, stop by, try to get some free money, give Michael someone to talk to for a little bit. If you're looking for professional speakers, we have plenty on staff to discuss leadership, business development, human capital management, social media, all kinds of stuff. So if you need more information on that, or if you want to reach out to schedule a speaker, feel free to contact me via email. That's DALEMAN@cs3tech.com. We also have a couple more presentations for you guys through the end of the year. November payroll year-end checklists and processes, and then in December we'll be looking at accounting year-end checklists and processes. So be on the lookout for those. We'll start promoting the November session here in the next couple of weeks. For all of our Serve Access Plan clients, today's session has been recorded, and you'll find the recording in the video library early next week. Ira's also going to make sure that the recording gets sent out. So like I said, don't fret on that. We'll make sure you guys get a copy of the recording. If you're not a Serve Access Plan member, also feel free to contact Ira. He can fill you guys in on the benefits of that. And that's going to do it for this month. It was a great session. I'm glad we had a huge turnout for this one. Be on the lookout for the recording. And if you guys have any questions or want to see a topic covered in the future, make sure you reach out and let us know. But have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys at the next one.